You are listening to CMQ Investing. I'm your host, Chris Franco. And in this episode, you will learn everything you need to know about the incredibly important concept known as margin of safety. Warren Buffett has said that the margin of safety principle is the cornerstone of investment success. And Charlie Munger has said that the margin of safety idea, which he describes as a Benjamin Graham precept, will never be obsolete. And Charlie Munger's investment partner, Li Lu, has said this: use an appropriate margin of safety to manage risk. This way, you will not lose too much when you are wrong, and you will make much more when you are right. In this way, you can let your portfolio generate higher than market returns with less risk in a sustainable and stable way. Now, I don't know about you, but that quote from Li Lu and what he describes there sounds pretty good. So to understand how we can achieve that, we need to really understand this concept. And so rather than give you sort of like an audio essay, I've turned to a classic investing book that's actually called Margin of Safety. It was written by Seth Klarman and published in 1991. And as you will soon hear, the wisdom is timeless. Let's get into it. Benjamin Graham understood that an asset or business worth $1 today could be worth 75 cents or $1.25 in the near future. He also understood that he might even be wrong about today's value. Therefore, Graham had no interest in paying $1 for $1 of value. There was no advantage in doing so, and losses could result. Graham was only interested in buying at a substantial discount from underlying value. By investing at a discount, he knew that he was unlikely to experience losses. The discount provided a margin of safety. Let me repeat that last part. The discount provided a margin of safety. Because investing is as much an art as a science, investors need a margin of safety. A margin of safety is achieved when securities are purchased at prices sufficiently below underlying value to allow for human error, bad luck, or extreme volatility in a complex, unpredictable, and rapidly changing world. According to Graham, the margin of safety is always dependent on the price paid. For any security, it will be large at one price, small at some higher price, non-existent at some still higher price. Buffett described the margin of safety concept in terms of tolerances. When you build a bridge, you insist that it can carry 30,000 pounds, but you only drive 10,000-pound trucks across it. And that same principle works in investing. What is the requisite margin of safety for an investor? The answer can vary from one investor to the next. How much bad luck are you willing and able to tolerate? How much volatility in business values can you absorb? What is your tolerance for error? It comes down to how much you can afford to lose. Most investors do not seek a margin of safety in their holdings. Let me just jump in here. Here's another great example of something we can do differently that will give us an advantage over most other individual investors. So have a margin of safety. Let me begin from the top there just so we don't get lost. Most investors do not seek a margin of safety in their holdings. Institutional investors who buy stocks as pieces of paper to be traded and who remain fully invested at all times fail to achieve a margin of safety. Greedy individual investors who follow market trends and fads are in the same boat. The only margin that investors who purchase Wall Street underwritings or financial market innovations usually experience is a margin of peril. Even among value investors, there is ongoing disagreement concerning the appropriate margin of safety. Some highly successful investors, including Warren Buffett, have come increasingly to recognize the value of intangible assets, broadcast licenses or soft drink formulas, for example, which have a history of growing in value without any investment being required to maintain them. Virtually all cash flow generated is free cash flow. The problem with intangible assets, I believe, is that they hold little or no margin of safety. The most valuable assets of Dr. Pepper or 7-Up Incorporated, by way of example, are the formulas that give those soft drinks their distinctive flavors. It is these intangible assets that cause Dr. Pepper / 7-Up Inc. to be valued at a high multiple of tangible book value. If something goes wrong, taste change or a competitor makes inroads, the margin of safety is quite low. Tangible assets, by contrast, are more precisely valued and therefore provide investors with greater protection from loss. Tangible assets usually have value in alternate uses, thereby providing a margin of safety. If a chain of retail stores becomes unprofitable, for example, the inventories can be liquidated, receivables collected, leases transferred, and real estate sold. If consumers lose their taste for Dr. Pepper, by contrast, tangible assets will not meaningfully cushion investors' losses. How can investors be certain of achieving a margin of safety? By always buying at a significant discount to underlying business value and giving preference to tangible assets over intangibles. By replacing current holdings as better bargains come along. By selling when the market price of any investment comes to reflect its underlying value, and by holding cash, if necessary, until other attractive investments become available. Investors should pay attention not only to whether, but also to why current holdings are undervalued. It is critical to know why you have made an investment and to sell when the reason for owning it no longer applies. Something I do, by the way, is anytime I purchase anything, I have a little document that I keep going, and I always write what my reason for buying is. So I can always go back and see exactly why I did it. Sometimes it's no longer than a paragraph. Sometimes I go into more depth. The key, though, is that we can go back and see how our expectations differed from reality. And hopefully they don't differ that much, but it's a really useful tool to keep yourself accountable and just to, even get yourself to slow down before you make any sort of investment. I find that if I have a rule that I have to write something down before I do something, I have to think about it. I have to think a little bit more clearly, and I can't let the excitement of the potential opportunity make me less rational in my decision making. So just something that I find that works. Seth Klarman continues, look for investments with catalysts that may assist directly in the realization of underlying value. Give preference to companies having good managements with a personal financial stake in the business. And finally, diversify your holdings and hedge when it is financially attractive to do so. Each of these points is discussed in the chapters comprising the remainder of this book. One thing I'd love to know is if you'd like me to read from more chapters from this classic investing book, and this book being Margin of Safety by Seth Klarman. If that's something you want to hear more of, well, that form that you can find at cmqfeedback.com is the perfect place to let me know. And as I've said in past episodes, I've been trying to kind of create a catch-all for all the feedback that comes in, and that way I can look at it and apply it in a more systematic, effective way. So with all that said, again, the URL is cmqfeedback.com, cmqfeedback.com. Thank you so much for listening. Please make sure you follow or subscribe on Spotify or Apple Podcasts. That's completely free, and you will get all the latest episodes as soon as they're released. I release new episodes every week, and there are over 118 of those episodes you can go back and listen to if you haven't already heard the entire catalog. So for CMQ Investing, my name is Chris Franco. Thank you so much for listening. We'll talk soon. Later.